Good afternoon. My name is Charece Williams. I'm a sports marketing and business executive and host of How the Business is Played. And I am here today with Ivory Tabb. And you guys should know by now, when you see Ivory Tabb, we are going to be talking about college athletics. And this is so very timely because we are just a few days in since Judge Claudia Wilkin officially approved the House versus NCAA settlement. And we all knew this was coming. This is going to fundamentally shift the business of college athletics. So, listen, we had to spend a couple of days to read up on it because it's so rich with so many implications. And we just wanted to take our time, walk you through it, and talk about what this can mean for student athletes and for college athletic department. So, Ivor, if you don't mind, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of the highlights so we
Yep.
can really get into the nitty gritty here. So, for student athletes, beginning July 1 of this year, each college athletic department will have the ability to distribute $20.5 million in revenue directly to student athletes
For the first year.
for the first year. Thank you, ma'am. And that will be known as inside cap dollars. And this number is going to increase, I believe, 4% annually. So
Yes.
20.5 million now, it's going to go up 4% every single year, which I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know how they're going to get it, but anyway,
So
we keep going.
technically, they said it's supposed to come from revenue sales, i.e., ticket sales, television dollars, sponsorships. That's where the base of the money is coming from.
True. I think what I'm reacting to is 5 days ago, this money was clearly going somewhere else or coming into the department, but being used for something else. So in my head, it's like, how do you blink of an eye and all of a sudden July 1 be able to turn that on? And what will probably happen is some schools will turn this on because it's up to 20.5 million. And maybe everyone don't got it or can't figure it out. And some schools will turn it on because they've been preparing for it. They've got a plan. Either they raised more money and or they found money other places, but it's just a big number to
So
kind of make something happen right away.
technically, the plan was back when we talked about this topic, when it was up to the court and we were waiting for the decision. In April, on April 1st, the schools who were part of the suit, i.e., all of the power schools, they
Hmm.
had to opt in by April 1st if they even wanted to participate. And when we say participate, have the ability to pay. So the
And let's be honest, what school is trying to say, I ain't trying to participate because who are you recruiting if you don't
yes,
have the pool of money? But please continue.
no. And so that was the biggest thing. The biggest piece that you just said there is the schools are permitted but not required. So
Hmm.
you have this money, you could spend it and you could spend up what you want. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the date for other schools who weren't in the suit, the mid majors, the HBCUs, June 1st. It's either June 1st or July 1st that they have to agree. And I want to say it might be July 1st now because the settlement just got
Right.
approved if
Hmm.
they want to get in and opt to pay. So for the small schools, for real, where are you going to get this money from?
We'll get to the NIL stuff later. So what's so sad about this is that these dates are lining up next to recruiting windows.
Yes.
So if you're a school and you haven't opted in, and I believe beginning of July is one of those big windows for maybe fall sports, maybe by
Yes.
July 15th or something.
Yes.
So if you don't sign on and say you're participating, that may be the last straw between an athlete choosing between your school and another one because these dates are so close.
Well, let's even push back one thing that you mentioned here. Even though the money doesn't start getting paid by July 1st, when this got approved on Friday, by June 6th, the new NIL clearinghouse is supposed to be up and running. So if you didn't pay whatever kid you thought you was going to pay through old NIL to get out of the transfer portal, to put that offer on the table, to give it to them and their family to say, this is how much we're going to give you, all of that has went away just that quick because now, as you mentioned, the keyword there, the new NIL Go portal is up and running, even though payments don't start till July 1st.
Okay, so since we're introducing some new information to people, the NIL Go. So we mentioned this the last time we talked about it. We knew that there was going to be a clearinghouse that Deloitte is a part of, where they are
Yes,
looking at every single deal that is $600 and above.
yes,
Be looking at these deals that come in to determine whether or not it's a fair price
Yes.
Student athlete, and if the deal's on the up and up. A
Yes.
couple of specifics around this. Let me see. I had this up here. They're looking at who's paying. Is it a collective? Is it a brand? They're determining whether there's a valid business purpose.
Yes.
So they're trying to use their name, image, and likeness for business, selling a good and service. They're basically trying to crack down on paying kids just to go to a school, right?
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
that is. Fair. And then the range of compensation. I'm just going to tell you straight out, this is where I take issue.
You know, I've
Or we take
always
issue.
I've always had an issue with this. I had an issue even when you had to turn in your contracts for NIL
Yes.
to the school, because if I was advising a kid, what I would say automatically was, we're going to black line, we're going to cover up the fees because we don't want anyone to know how much you're being paid.
That's right.
Because what the schools are basically saying is, hey, it's going to happen a whole lot with this. And we'll pull back to another point of this, is the roster limits. Once a school sees that you're making, as we call it, Cooper flag money, once the school sees that you're making, and it was reported he had deals for $28.5 million from 2 different companies his freshman year. Once they see that you're making that, in their mind, they have the right, because this is now part of the contract that you've signed to receive this rev share money, is to pull the money back from you. So they could say, hey, you're already making, $5 million this year from XYZ. We only want to pay you, other schools in the SEC are paying their point guard $2 million a year. You don't need that much. We only want to give you $500,000 and you had it. That part right there is antitrust, and that's not fair either.
Yeah, that's such a really good point to illuminate for people, right? That they're not independent anymore. You used to be able to kind of make, well, first of all, rev share didn't exist, but your NIL money was your business.
Yep.
It's like your paycheck you're getting for the job that you're doing. I don't talk about what I make every day, right? So it's that situation. But now people can see it and actually manipulate the rev share money. And I guess they're trying to spread the wealth potentially, right? Because say they are paying a top athlete a lot of money, but they find out he's making it from his sneaker deal or whatever. Now it does open up to pay more people potentially.
Let's be honest. 90% is going to go to men's basketball and football. The other 10% is going to go to the rest of the sports. And if you say, okay, school, I'm going to use all 20 million of my money. After we do the numbers, football is going to get between 15 and 17 million. Men's basketball will get between 3 and 3.5 million. Then you'll have 2.2 million to spread throughout the other teams. So if I'm taking money from, the point guard, I'm not taking that money from the point guard to give it to women's soccer. I'm taking that money from my point guard to give it to a center.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now we talking about spreading the wealth on the same roster. We know
you ain't sharing it.
Listen, I would love to not say that. I would love to be in a situation where schools, and I hope to see this happen somewhere, where they realize that now, because some of these other kids may have a better chance from an NIL perspective to be able to then take care of other teams. Like, I would love to see that.
No, it's not going to happen. And we already know it's not going to happen.
I can't just be someone that looks at the glass half full.
No, because we already seen it. You remember when, I don't know if the last time we were talking about this business, if we were discussing the Maryland coach. So Maryland's men's basketball coach, he was at Maryland. It was time for him to re-sign a new contract. He didn't.
He dipped.
He went to Villanova. Mm-hmm. But the word on the street is the reason why he flipped is because they were having an argument on how much money of rev share was going to be split between men's and women's basketball. He thought he should get more. He was either, I don't know if the split wasn't high enough, but in his mind, he said, I'm going to Villanova where I don't have to split it with anyone because they don't have football.
Right? Yeah, that's big.
Exactly. So
that's big.
No, what's even bigger? And I was like, oh, she's going to love this point. Supposedly, and I can't wait to see how they get around this. These are supposed to be public numbers. So we are able to see how much money each position is getting paid. And I like that it's public because now we're going to have to duke it out on how are you getting your QB1. LSU was paying $2 million. Georgia going to pay $2 million. Florida, everybody's going to pay $2 million for the QB spot. So now how are we deciding where we're going to go? And that's when this NIL go is going to be
Yeah.
a huge factor.
Well, you know what? Even in your description, you're assuming, and I get why you are, that maybe, because again, the language that was throwing me off, let me just read it off. The range of compensation, whether the compensation paid to the student athlete is commensurate with compensation paid to similarly situated individuals. That similarly situated individuals is the point that I am really curious about. Are they looking conference to conference position?
So guess
So Georgia versus South Carolina versus LSU, are they all the same?
what? I like that even more. And that's when we're going to bring this Cooper flag back. Because right now, he technically is the standard. We're going to go look and we're going to go commemorative to other. He's the other.
This is why it's interestingly written. Is Duke different because they're a top 10 program every year versus one that's on the come up? Like, how are they talking about similarly situated? That to me is vague. I wonder what that really means. Because to your point, if it's just a point guard at any Division I school,
remember the power, and that's the thing that I was saying when I read all the details. This new piece that's going up is now something called the Collegiate Sports Commission. And this is an outside entity that is non-NCAA enforcement entity that is managed by the Power Four conferences. Let's not forget that. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be their job. They run the NIL Go, which is under Deloitte, but they are in charge of going after teams who commit infractions in the space of going over the cap. The NIL Go being you still are being paid and that they didn't like the terms. And that's the problem. The biggest problem I have with this is Deloitte. Who is Deloitte to say that this is fair or not? And when I say fair or not, when I worked at Panini Trading Cards, I'm paying per signature. And I was paying based off the player and who I thought you were, who I thought you were going to be, what school you came from, how your fans chased you, what position you got drafted. So you could, and I always use the example of the only player that I didn't sign his rookie year, and I got him later, but who I didn't sign his rookie year was Damian Lillard. And I didn't sign Damian Lillard because you went to Weber State, son.
Ivory.
What? In my mind, I can't right now to this day be like, where's that at?
Oh, Jesus.
What conference do you play in? What? Yes, you were the number 8 pick, but Weber State, do you have fans? Do people want your card? Now, yes, when you get looking back on it, you signed how we did these deals is you signed everything got signed, and then it was time for a new contract. So if you did what you were supposed to do, you started signing signatures in May. We get through summer league. We get to the first half of the season. For some kids, if you were efficient, if you turned everything in, I remember this was way before NIL, so this was the first kind of NIL money.
Yeah.
By January, you could be getting another contract. So now it ain't Weber State. Now you're the starting point guard for Portland. You leading you on the rookie chart. Now we got a whole lot of different things to discuss.
Right.
And so for this part right there, when you said, well, is it any Division I point guard? No. The Power Fours is going to have this on lockdown. And then through the Power Fours is going to be a hierarchy. Because the SEC is like, we're the best conference. Big 12 is like, I'm sorry, not 12, 10. They 12 now, but they like hold my beer. Then, the ACC is like, are we talking basketball?
That's what I'm saying. Like by sport, by conference, there's so much going on here.
Yes. And so now at this point, if we go back to Cooper and his numbers, folks were like, they were so shocked to see that he got the 28 million. The 28 million, 15 came from New Balance and 13 came from Fanatics, which like Panini is trading cards memorabilia now. So when I saw the numbers, I wasn't surprised at all because then I kept reading and I was like, oh, this is for 5 years. Because of NIL, it started when he was in high school. So that's just breaking it down per year and it tracks. trading cards, the things that they would do. So it's not really far reach. They just signed him to a longer term contract earlier as he was a senior in high school. And now that money gets spread out and they have him exclusively. So for me, that's the way around it. As I told you, I've been thinking of some creative ideas of how you get around
Yeah,
clearinghouse.
sign before you get to college. Because right now it's $600, which will be for anything. Like you do a social post, you're going to get that, right? At least.
Yes.
So yeah, you'd have to turn it in. And that was the other part that was kind of interesting. So then they decide if you're cleared.
Yes.
Or you're not cleared.
Yes. If you're not cleared, you can file a complaint and you can go through the steps of what's the word I'm looking for?
Arbitration, appealing.
Yes. You can go through arbitration. And then if you're not cleared again, there is another step that you could go to. But if you still illegally do it, they said that comes from your cap of money.
Okay, so I'm gonna put my brand hat on. Yep. So as much as we like to be ahead and planning for our different campaigns, sometimes low-hanging fruit opportunities appear. Sometimes an athlete just all of a sudden becomes the name, or they go
Jeremy Lin.
Right. They go viral for a moment and all of a sudden they are the moment. You know what? They'd be perfect fit to communicate this brand message that we are delivering.
Yep.
I want to sign that athlete. So what I'm thinking about is, how does this work? How quickly are they going to get this clearinghouse situation done? Like, supposedly, can they participate? Because you know what? My launch day is not going to change.
Supposedly it's 24 hours.
Supposedly 24 hours. But if you find yourself in the appeal situation, how long does that take? And how many times can you appeal if we're not okay? So in that point, one time. So I'm a brand person and I decide that you are worth this. You know why? I would pay any influencer that has this much following and blah, 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 this amount of money. Therefore, I want to pay you this because you have a similar following, different types of people, but numbers yes, I want to pay you.
Yes.
So how does this work? Because I am now looking at the student athlete like I would an influencer. How are they looking at them? Like, are they looking at them like a athlete and you're being compared based to other suitable?
You as a great brand marketer, and you hear I put great in front of that, and I said that for a reason. You as a great brand marketer are going to be able to put things in that contract that show value, that add up. It ain't they just throwing on brand X's hat and going in. You are going to be able to say, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And all of this money is comparable for us to get you to do this, compared to the schools collective who has just been paying these kids to show up, because literally we're paying you to sign. We are paying you to make sure you come to this school. We are paying you to make sure that you don't enter the transfer portal and that for the longevity of your college career, you stay with us. So that's one big difference. A major brand, and there's still going to be some pushback until some of these things start clicking. And when I say start clicking, by June 6th, if I'm smart and I'm ready and I'm on top of it, by June 6th, I would have so many deals. But like you said, my calendar is stating that I need to get ready. And technically, if you are a brand and you are already doing these NIL deals that the way they were supposed to be, and you were set above board, you was, I'm sure, adding a little extra in there because at this day and time you have to. But your contract should be ready to go. It should be standard operating procedures. And the things that they are looking for, the things that they claim that the brand, that this Deloitte piece is supposed to be looking for, you technically should have already been doing.
Well, I will say this. There's still a lot of brands who have not ventured in NIL.
True.
And they're scared or they really don't know. So it's going to be interesting for those that were ready to get started, because it will be tough for them because they haven't actually done the work yet.
Yes.
So it's going to be very interesting. I think that where my head still is, I'm thinking about this one HBCU student athlete that I was going to work with. Okay. And it really wasn't about his position on the team at all. It was really about the fact that he knew how to create content, because not every student athlete is a content creator, right?
Because they're not
really great at their sport, and maybe they can do a couple things here or there. That's really what he did. And when I looked at what we pay other creators to do work and him, like there was a chance that if someone wanted to compare him to other HBCU student athletes, they'd be like, no, this number doesn't work because the other HBCU, generally speaking, aren't making the same amounts of money. So this is where I have questions around the language, because I can see where there's going to be situations where people are outside of the norm of what's expected, and how will that be handled?
And I'm with you. And especially with, let's look at two other things that I just thought of that come in the mix when we
Yeah.
say paying somebody. You paying Jordan Childs because she's still in school, she's still at UCLA, because she's an Olympian, compared to you paying a young lady who's on the team. She went to juniors. Those are still two different things. And so that money, is Deloitte going to have an algorithm? Or is it somebody that thinks that they know what they're doing that's going to look like what Deloitte honestly needs is somebody like me or you that actually cares about giving these kids a decent shot, to look at it, to compare it, to say, this is fair, this is not fair.
Mm.
Because if we just take somebody who, let's just say, is a lawyer, or just take somebody that worked at NCAA in their investigation unit and they've decided to take this job, at this point, they probably won't be able to look at those small, minute details, something like you just mentioned, on why it works. And the why it works part is where people like me and you have been in this business for a long time, especially on the brand side. It's like, we know why this is going to work and know why we need to pay this kid XYZ, because we know the extra value that he brings to the table or she brings to the table. But the thing that will shortly be interesting, let's take the young lady from Texas Tech, the softball player.
Mm-hmm.
So she was at Stanford. Stanford was doing well. They didn't win anything. Earlier this year, she transferred to Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Tech gave her $1 million. And she played well all season long. She put them in the World Series.
Right.
Before the last game, they lost the first game of the World Series. They won the second one in the World Series for women's softball. It's 3 games. So now the last game is Tech. The series is Texas Tech versus Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Right before it came out, they said she has agreed to sign another 7-figure deal with Texas Tech to come back and play.
Mm.
Are we going to say that it's worth that? Is somebody on the Deloitte team going to look enough to know enough to understand why this female athlete, let's be real clear about this, and we know we don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it, an African-American women's softball player is getting 7 figures to come back to Texas Tech to play softball. I'm sure that softball team is not making any money. Like most teams, I'm sure it's a free event to come to on campus. But she did take you from not even being on the map to you in the map. You are the map. So at this point, does she not get that? And is that fair? Because this is when the lawsuits are going to come in.
It's like, and you made this point earlier, standards have been set at this point. We have deals have come in. Maybe we haven't seen them all. Not everyone is out there. The standards have been set already. So will they, and I don't know you might know these details. Will they be using any previous deals that were done before this July 1st timeframe? Or will they be like starting from scratch? Because to that point, she's kind of set the market for college softball.
Very much so.
So is that really the market? Are they going to say, you know what, that was an outlier? No, we're actually going to put softball here. This is what I'm curious about, because again, it's already been happening. The market already sort of like valued itself.
So here's the thing. Let's even take one step before that. NIL agents aren't going away. NIL managers aren't going away. People like me who give advice, because as I've always say, I do not want to represent you, but I want to educate you.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you to go in and ask for this and look for this. The contracts that they are giving out to these kids to sign are ridiculous. And to sign to even opt in, those contracts I would redline. And that's a conversation we could have next on, you as a parent, do the pros outweigh the cons for you to even sign this contract?
Oh, man.
Because the biggest point that you give away is your NIL rights, because now the school owns it because you've agreed to get paid. Let's say you did a deal before this happened on Friday. If you did a deal with Coke through your school, Coke put your picture on the can. You and your team have to negotiate with Coke how much money it's going to cost for you to put your face on the can in the city that you live in. Now, if the school is a Coke school, Coke can work it out with the team to put your face on the can, and you're not getting paid for that because the school owns your NIL rights. And that might be something that, if I'm smart and I'm the school, I'm writing in my deals that our players get featured on cans. So here we go.
Listen, that's a whole nother side of this in terms of the business of college athletics, right? So we're talking a lot about what this means for the athletes and that side, but the departments, like this is a major shift in terms of how they've been doing business. And to your point, these contracts used to be, you just re-sign. That's it. You pretty much just re-sign the renewal. Coke, Pepsi, campus, doesn't matter. You just re-sign for the most part. But now you do need to pay attention to those details.
Yes.
Now you are representing your student athletes and you want to make sure you can get the most out of it. And if I could be critical, I think that is probably a skill that is not walking around most college athletic departments, to be able to think about the contracts in that way and reimagine them and write the things in there that are needed to take advantage of this, because the rev share part is part of it, right? You're paying kids to come there, but how do you make that work for them? Those kids want to grow their brands. Some want to just play their sport. There are some, but some want to grow their brands. This is their version of a resume, so people can know who they are in case they're not going to go pro in the sport later. So yeah, I need you to have thought about getting my face on this can. So when we
right there,
leadership, I need y'all to think about that.
Right there. And that is going to be, that should definitely be part of it. But then guess what? If the school is smart and they're using it to their advantage, okay, QB1, because that's going to be, this is where another point of contention is going to come from. Your top spots, your skill positions in all sports, how much are we willing to pay them? Football, you're getting $16 million. Something I mentioned earlier is the roster limits. So it used to be 85 kids got scholarship. Now for football, they've increased it to 105. This was actually one of the points where the judge pushed back. It was maybe 130 kids on the teams, considering walk-ons, premier walk-ons, all that. When this got put into place, a lot of teams back in the spring cut a lot of spots already. Thousands of kids, their scholarships got revoked if you were going to go there and they didn't want to count you as a roster spot. And then other kids who were walk-on, premier walk-ons and been there, 2-3 years, they got kicked off the team too. And I don't want to say kicked off, but literally that's what happened. And that was one of the reasons why it took so long to come to the agreement, is because the judge said, this isn't fair. Y'all have to figure it out. So they grandfathered the kids in. So they now get to come back to the team, and they also can use it to transfer as well if that's something that they needed to do. But if I'm QB1 and I'm saying, okay, of that 16.5, are you giving me, because this 16.5, I'm like, are you giving me $5 million to be the quarterback here? And remember, this is yearly. So are you giving me $5 million and the other 10 is going to be spread throughout the team? Because you can't bank it. You can't say, hey, I'm going to use this now and get something and save some for, you could, but do you want to do that? You get what I'm saying? If you got 16 million this year, are you like, yeah, I'm going out and spending all of my 16 million? Or are you saying, hey, I'm only spending 10 million. I got 6 next year. I could use the 6, because you could possibly do that. Or is the NCAA and this new commission looking at it like, okay, next year you're going to get 21, football's going to get another 17. Is it still in your coffers because you saved some? But if I am QB1, like you said, with our face on the can, that's something that me as the school I'm negotiating, and then me as a person going into saying, hey, I'm QB1, I want my face on the can. You own my NIL rights. Here are things that I wanted to do that now probably technically I can't do with your business partners, because you should kind of be in there negotiating this for me. And that's another part of said contract that we need to talk about before I come to your school. So if you don't have someone that's savvy, like you said, that's thinking way ahead, then these kids are still, you're getting paid, but you're still going to get taken advantage of. Because I could put you on any and everything. And Every brand partner that I have, every major sponsorship, you going to show up, you going to sign autographs, you going to kiss babies, your face is going to be on a stanchion when you walk into the local bank. All of those things. And I'm not paying you a dime because I'm already giving you $5 million. And these kids can't say no.
Let's take a step back.
Yep.
Because we're living in this heat moment of they're already getting paid. So it feels like it's being taken away. If we go back to had this been done correctly the first time,
Oh, yeah.
right? If we go back to then, this would have been a great thing in terms of I'm coming to a school. You're going to use my name, image, and likeness because you can. I'm wearing your jersey. So we're in a relationship, right? And you're going to break me off something. Maybe it's $5 million. Maybe it's $150,000 if you're on another program somewhere. And that would have been so much better than the $0 you made and the $0 I made when we were student athletes, right?
Yes.
Now a thing because again, the standard's been set. And that's what's so like disheartening about it all, because the opportunity ahead right now is much better than what it was 20 years ago. But it's
Yes.
so different and sometimes and in some ways feels restrictive to what was happening just this past year. So unfortunately, it feels like almost a lose-lose situation. Like it's tough
Yes.
for everyone involved. I appreciate that we're starting to get some structure around it, but I like you because while I understand the type of society we're in and money's green, everybody wants to make it, I also think about doing the right thing for the student athlete, I'm the right thing sort of person. So you want to see it all work out, but it's going to come down to who is in the seats of power in the clearinghouse, at the athletic department, at the brands, agents, parents who have power and need to definitely get educated and exercise. Those folks have a lot of responsibility,
Yes.
in their hands, and the student athletes as well. And can we all operate the right way and do things for the right reasons and make sure that it's more fair and equitable to people that are involved? That is the $1 million question.
What happens to international students?
Oh man, Ivory.
Because the F1 international student visas that they're on does not allow you to, I will say, employee authorization. That's a great term. That's necessary for them to participate in this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you couldn't do NIL, but you could work. There was a way that you could work around that. Basically, you go back to your home country.
Do it on this
soil
soil
over there. You get paid over there. But now at this point, and guess what? Remember that little thing that Trump is doing right now?
Which thing?
The not wanting international students to even be here. So the only way that this F1, this visa type gets changed, that has to go through Congress. That has to go through Congress to make this change. Do you think he's going to write a new law that allows these students to get paid? So yes, I understand that you're coming here, you're playing, you're getting a whole new education. And it maybe it's better than what you had when you were in your own country based on how our sports and our structures are set up. So now you get to come over here, you get to play, we get to use you for whatever we want to use you for, and you don't get anything.
Well, you know what? It's a really good point. And I wonder, before we close out here, I think about the WNBA draft since it's so recent, right? And there was some surprise. I mean, there was some not surprises. One girl from France, everyone kind of expected to go pretty high. But there were a couple of women who had not played in the collegiate system,
right?
In the US that made it as a lottery pick of the WNBA draft. And they played for their national teams and they're playing to be a pro. So part of me feels like I wonder if the implication will be the student athletes who really are coming for their education, primary, maybe they are fine with it, not happy, but maybe they're fine with it. But those that want to be pro, they may not even play in our collegiate programs. And that could actually change what they look like. They could just stay in their countries and come and be a lottery pick.
I'm not coming over here for no American education.
But listen, some who aren't thinking about pro, there's some excellent programs in the US. But I feel you though, if I think I'm gonna be a pro,
those excellent programs don't have an excellent educational system.
Girl.
But wait, no. Even with that, even when we take that, and like you said, you use the draft, that's the same thing with Victor Wembanyama, same way. Yeah. But for me with that, most, knock on wood, like you said, most kids are coming over here to play on a bigger stage so they can either one, go back to their team to play, especially getting ready for the Olympics, but all of the huge national, other than we'll say soccer, all the huge national brands and leagues and forums, that's here. And so I'm coming here so I get the opportunity to play stateside in the USA so folks and scouts and people can see me. And like you said, other than basketball, which, if that's Adam Silver's mission is to make it the best global sport in the world. But if we say football, and there's not many foreign football players, but the other Olympic sports, because that's what's going to hurt the most is our Olympic movement. Before we get out of there, we have to say that because these non-ref sports, and I can see on two hands though with it, because at least you're getting more scholarships. You're definitely getting more scholarships, but those sports aren't some money that they should be getting. They may get a little, but if we take that away, these international students who are coming here, they're just happy. Hey, I'm just happy to be here.
Man. Well, listen, obviously we could go on and on about this subject because it's going to be ever changing. You got to just buckle down here and just take a look to see what's happening because it's going to be a lot. But for anyone that's listening and you have further questions, collegesportscommission.org is the website where you can read up about all the differences, the roster limits, the scholarship expansion, all that stuff. So you can see all the pieces of the ruling. And then we're just going to buckle up here because we're going to see the implications of this start to take form every day from this point forward. So I'm sure we'll have Ivory back on here again because something's going to pop off that needs to be discussed immediately.
Let's bet dinner the next time we see each other or when the first lawsuit's going to hit.
August.
You say August, I'm going to hedge my bets like on with the wheel.
Yes, Wheel Virgin. Or wait.
The Price is Right. When they go
Price is Right. Yes.
July 1st, the payments start. I'm going to be in court July 3rd asking where my money is if I'm on a female sport.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my word. You probably are not wrong.
Yeah. Because, women's sports and Olympic sports, sans men's basketball, are getting the short end of the stick in money and the short end of the stick in revenue dollars. And most folks will say they're not contributing to the pot of the millions that are being distributed. But guess what? They're keeping up GPAs. They are keeping up all the academic standards that the NCAA has placed forth. They are helping to compete and get you money from the Commissioner's Cup. All the little things that we're not paying attention to. They're fueling our grassroots Olympic programs that are fueling the 2028 movement. So there are a lot of things that the Olympic non-rep sports brings to the collegiate system. And at the end of the day, especially with Title IX moving the way it is, thank you again, Donald Trump. What can you do? What are they going to do? So it's a lot of antitrust, a lot of language that folks don't like that's flying around, and someone will be back in court to discuss this.
Okay, you got July. I'm going with August. So they're gonna be backed up the minute people start flooding that thing. So
if I'm a lawyer, I'm writing my appeal now.
You ready? You just know you got a client that's gonna need your services.
Yeah,
that is so funny. Ivory, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next episode. Take care.
Bye.